This week's edition of Bowling Evolved is brought to you by BowlingIllustrated.com and TVSRadioNetwork.com. TVS Network, for over 50 years, bringing you the best in sports broadcasting. Hello, bowling fans. This is Dustin J. Markowitz coming to you taped on location on the gym along the Colorado River, Fort Mojave, Arizona, in here at Elite Pro Shop to bring you yet another edition of your favorite bowling talk show, Bowling Evolved. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime. He's a 5-time PBA national champion, a millionaire on the PBA Tour, and the man with the golden left hand. And let's not forget, it was just his birthday, too, so everyone make sure to send him enough happy birthday wishes. The one and only Eric Forkel. Eric, how you doing tonight?
Well, I'm just worn out from my birthday. What can I tell you? You know, how many times do you get to turn 56? That's all I want to know. How many times?
I'm shocked any of us make it that far, let alone...
I'm telling you, I am too. It's just one of those things, but here I am, happy to be doing this with you, and looking forward to another exciting show of Bowling Evolved.
Very much so, and I do want to say this is a very special edition of Bowling Evolved. This week we are not only going out on our YouTube channel and Facebook, but we are going out on the TVS Radio Network as well. This show is dedicated to the new, hot, amazing, incredible, phenomenal. I don't have any more words to describe it. It is just a terrific endeavor by Tom Ficarra, Bowling Illustrated, of course, available at BowlingIllustrated.com, the new magazine. And to help us celebrate what we are going to be talking about tonight, I'd like to introduce one of the other people associated with the magazine who was one of the cover stories. She is beautiful. She is amazing. She is, without a doubt, one of the greatest senior women bowlers of all time, someone who's been on our show numerous times, the one, the only, Paula Vidad. Paula, how are you doing tonight?
I'm excellent, Dustin. Thank you very much for having me on the show with you and Eric.
It's always a pleasure to have Paula on our show. Always.
Aw, how sweet. Love you guys.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And we love you, too. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how you do it, but you just are more and more beautiful every time I see you. I think it's something in the water out where you live, so...
Oh, I think it's the $100 that I send you for saying that.
See, Eric, I would say more nice things about you if you sent me money.
I'm not going to send you a dime. Are you kidding? I'm still waiting for the 25 cents you owe me. But go ahead. I want to get paid for doing this. I want at least a quarter. At least a quarter.
Yeah. We'll talk about it, but...
Yeah, I know. I'm asking too much. I know.
We'll get right into it here. Of course, you know, the reason we're all together tonight, and it's a subject that has really been sweeping the web, is that we're now all involved with Tom Ficarra and TVS, the broadcasting company, which is planning on bringing bowling back to regular television, cable TV, streaming services. And I don't know about you guys, but for me as a 30-year-old bowler, someone that's grown up in this environment, what he's trying to do is incredible, and I'm very thrilled and flattered to be representing his company and representing Bowling Illustrated as well as our own podcast, Bowling Evolved. And, Eric, I'll start with you. I mean, when you heard about all this, I know I was the one that kind of broke the news to you, and, I mean, there was so much skepticism, and then, you know, there's this feeling that, can this really be real? And, you know, it's amazing that it seems to be coming true.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's always times where you think it's just maybe too good to be true because a lot of times in this industry, people get promised things and they're all gung-ho about it, and the next thing you know, the rug gets ripped out from under you, and basically you have nothing. You have a lot of promises, but nothing really comes through. So this is looking very good, obviously, and there's a lot of irons in the fire in relationship to this endeavor, and I'm just looking forward to getting this thing started and seeing what the response is to the public. And obviously doing our tournament, and I know Paula's got an event coming down the road, and all these events involved with TBS. I'm just looking forward to doing it. Once we get into it, then I'll feel a lot more better about the whole thing.
Totally understandable. And, so far everything that we have been promised and has been promised has come true. Obviously, Bowling Illustrated coming out, and now us being on his Spreaker network, which is of course, the online podcast network that we are part of. And Paul, with the WBA, and we have kind of been in the same boat with certain things, there have been a lot of promises to your organization as well as the Bowling Evolved, and this must be a very refreshing situation to have with the WBA.
Well, Dustin, it is very exciting because it was something that I was working for women's bowling back when we first started the WBA. And then when the PWBA came to life, I just kind of put it on the back burner, said, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about doing tournaments anymore or what have you. And now with this encouraging news, it's just very exciting. And it's brought that fire back in me that wants to host all these tournaments and get the women going back again here, and especially in Southern California, because it's been a dying breed for, I'd have to say at least 8 years now. And to get the women back out and especially have television and, he wants to do quite a few WBA events, which I'm very excited. So I guess I better get on the ball and schedule some tournaments. So I'm very excited about this.
It does sound fantastic. And, of course, for those of you who don't know or have not seen the press releases, TBS does a lot of different broadcasting, everything from streaming services to basic cable, and the hopes are that we'll be on everything in between that as well. Tom has promised that we'll be looking at paid programming spots on the major networks, and, of course, the streaming services are absolutely incredible. He's done some amazing things in the past, and, I couldn't even name all the sports he's been involved with, but for those of you who don't know, TBS also used to do the Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour back in the day, Bowling for Dollars, Celebrity Bowling. It's just tons and tons of bowling-related tournaments, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's such an amazing thing that someone in his position still sees the viability in bowling, and it's something we all can see, but it seems like a lot of the sponsors and a lot of even the bowlers themselves don't seem to see the viability of what is out there.
I agree, Dustin. And the difference is that he's a TV guy. And it's always been bowlers that have been trying to get the sport of bowling on TV, but doing it the wrong way. You have to know a TV guy. I got to speak with Tom the last week, and the information that he gave me as far as negotiations and how you do it, and he has a company that sells the advertising, the sponsors, and all of this. And I think the people on the bowling side never knew how to go about this. So I think, if we would have had Tom on our side a long time ago, I think bowling would have been flourishing, but it's never too late. So we get to start now and build up from here. It's crazy, the information that he told me. I love learning something new every day, but television is a whole different puppy, and it's like, oh wow, I had no idea. So it's very exciting to listen to him speak about the future of bowling.
I tend to agree. I had several conversations with him, and it's just amazing to me because obviously from my background being a tournament promoter here in Laughlin and being a bowler all my life, I've done things a certain way, trying to get local involvement and regional involvement in, traditional avenues, but not a lot of TV coverage. And Eric, going to your perspective for a second, for the longest time, the only real game on TV, or at least the only game that lasted, was the PBA, and it seems like now that the PBA, for better or worse, is in kind of a downward spot. It's not as prevalent anymore. It almost seems like Tom is coming in at a very unique and, quite frankly, a very good position if he hopes to get this bandwagon rolling again.
Yeah, that's true. People are always looking for bowling on TV. I have people come in the shop all the time and ask me, how come bowling's not on TV anymore? I hear this all the time, whether it's the men or the women. The women do have a tour again, but it's, I believe it's on the CBS channel, CBS Sports, or something that's not very easy. A lot of people don't have, or a lot of people can't see. So if he's willing to put it out there and get it in a place where people can get a hold of it, it's good. I mean, you need to be on TV. You need to be seen. I always think that live events are probably the best way, but unfortunately to do live events is almost impossible nowadays. So you have to take what you can get. And if you can't have it live, then you'll have to go with the tape. But, if we have the opportunity to have our stuff on television or be involved with it, then that's better. I mean, more promotion, more awareness that tournaments are going on, and people have to see it. I remember Steve Miller, when he got involved with the PBA back when they took over in 2000, he always said, if it's not on TV, it doesn't happen. So in a way, that's true. If people don't see it, they don't know what's going on. So you have to have it on TV in some form, to make people aware of what's going on. That's just the way it is. That's why all the other major sports and events they're always on TV. And if they weren't on TV, you probably wouldn't know they were going on. So there's definitely truth to that statement. So yeah, it's great that we're given this opportunity to put stuff on television. I'm just looking forward to seeing it happen.
Yes, absolutely. And as everyone would well know, I mean, you can't walk until you crawl, you can't jog until you walk, and you can't run until you jog. And I think that as we progress, and it starts out with the streaming and the paid programming, and more people see what he's trying to do, I mean, he's planning to do 150 bowling shows a year, which obviously not all of them are going to get on national TV, not all of them are going to get on regional TV, but when you have enough of a build of programming, and it's going to be a wide variety from what I understand, from the senior shootout in Vegas to our doubles tournament to the WBA, literally there's something for everybody. And I think now that it's going to be centralized, and of course between Bowling Evolve, Paula with the WBA and everything that you're involved with, and our social media connections, this is going to be an absolutely incredible endeavor. I think that he's going about it in a way that's fairly unique, and I believe that we'll be able to help him. At least that's my hope, and that's what I plan to do.
Well, I mean, if you tell bowlers in general, hey, come bowl, you have a chance to be on television, I always think that should be if that doesn't make people want to come out and bowl, I don't know what would, considering, most bowlers, it's hard to get them to come fill your tournaments, whether it's a men's tournament or women's tournament. I mean, the entries are just down across the board, like we've talked about for years. It's hard to get people to fill a regional these days. And, maybe if people know that, hey, I got a chance to be on television, albeit on a tape delay or what have you, but I still have a chance to be on TV. That was always the greatest draw that I always thought back in the day. I would like to make that TV show because I'd like to be on TV on a Saturday. I think that's so cool. And we'll be able to offer something like that. Hey, where else you got a chance to be on television? I'm hoping that drives people to start bowling tournaments again, because scratch bowling has definitely gone the other way. And maybe something like this, along with a little bit of money, hopefully, will get people to start bowling tournaments again. You have to find a way to get people interested to come out and bowl. Like they say, you can build it, but if nobody comes, you don't have anything. You've got to find a way to get people to show up. You have to find a way to draw people in to come bowl your event, whether it's a men's tournament or a women's tournament. There has to be an incentive, and maybe this will add to the incentive for people to come bowl.
I agree with you, Eric, because what's funny is I started mentioning about the mixed doubles to people, and that it was going to be 8 games of qualifying, and then top 4 go to the TV finals. I said with real television, real TV taping, and you could see their eyes just light up, and they'd go, really? I go, yes, real television. Exactly. So it is definitely a huge draw to be able to say, yeah, you could be on television. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have a hook or a driving force, because, people, it's tough to get people to come bowl, as as two people who've tried to organize tournaments over the years. How do you get people to show up? you offer them this, you offer them that, but something that's, bowling on TV is still pretty cool. It may not be what it was so many years ago, but it's still cool, and most bowlers would love that opportunity, and whatever form this takes shape in, it's still a chance to be, whether it's streamed or actually on regular TV. It's cool. I think it's a good hook. I think it's a good driving force. Have a little decent prize fund with it. Like I said, if that doesn't do it, then boy, I don't know what else. I don't know what else there is. I mean, that's it. That's as good as it gets. That's it.
Absolutely.
And people were asking me, how many entries do you have? I go, well, does it really matter? If there were 2 entries, that would be great because somebody's going to make a lot of money. That would be great because somebody's going to make a lot of money. But I was mentioning, we're going to have television, and they didn't even care what the money was for this mixed doubles tournament. I said, yes, I'm going to get some added money and everything, but they didn't even care. Their eyes were television. Yeah. To have $5,000 added money for a women's tournament, and then they asking me some ridiculous question like that, but then mention television, it's like, oh, okay. They'd probably be okay with not even the bowling for money, just so long as they have a chance to get on TV.
Yeah, because that's how people are. That's just how it is. I mean, that's the driving force in all events.
Right.
Just they can tell their family, friends, whatever, hey, I'm going to be on TV, or they'll always have it. Even if they stop bowling down the road, they'll have a copy of when they were on TV. And you can't. The money comes and goes, but certain things like bowling on TV, it never goes. You always have it. You always have it.
Exactly. And especially today with streaming services and YouTube, I mean, it's something that's going to last forever. And I'm glad you brought up that point too, Eric. I always remember what you told me about the fame. The money comes and goes, but the fame lasts forever. And I think the one thing that you also touched base on that's really interesting, you mentioned reviving scratch bowling, but fortunately we're also able to revive handicap bowling as well, which is amazing, which I think is a completely untapped outlet as far as bowling production goes. But we'll come back to that in just a second. Stick around. When we come back, we'll have more on not only what's going on with TBS and our tournaments, but also the top stories in Bowling Illustrated this month. Stick around. This week's edition of Bowling Evolved is brought to you by BowlingIllustrated.com and TBSRadioNetwork.com. TBS Network, for over 50 years, bringing you the best in sports broadcasting. And welcome back, bowling fans. Well, as we just left you, we were talking about getting tournaments back on TV. And, guys, I think this is a good chance as any is for me to give the shameless plug for Bowling Evolved. Because, Eric, we've never done shameless plugs for all our events before.
Nope. This is the first time besides me telling you how much I love going to Laughlin. I love that place.
I still have nightmares. You know what? Never mind. We'll get into that later. But anyway, hear it in my sleep. We are going to be going back into Laughlin, and in fact, all three of us will be involved in this tournament. One of the stories in the incredible Bowling Illustrated, which you can read at BowlingIllustrated.com. The Bowling Evolved 2x4, presented by Mongoose Products, RealBowlersTape.com, and now the big announcement, Motive Bowling. Motive Bowling, of course, has been a big supporter of our show. We've had them on several times talking. Scott Wilbur, obviously, is a tremendous individual. Scott Hewitt, who runs their promotions and everything else with them. Glad to have them on board. And, of course, being a doubles tournament, handicapped 100% at 210, $2,000 guaranteed on top, and, of course, having the opportunity to get on TV, I think we are finally promoting the both sides of the equation because, as we've talked about before, handicap bowling has not really gotten the best of PR in recent years, and I think with a low handicap giving the opportunity for a Joe Schmo to bowl against potentially somebody like an Eric Forkel, someone that is a pro bowler, I think it's very exciting. It makes for great TV.
Well, it's all about the memories, like we talked about, and if these people have a chance to come out and compete and they get a few pins in doing so, and, anybody can beat anybody in a match, so I think it opens up a a whole new can of worms, so to speak, and people will they'll love it. You're going to get people to show up of all different kinds, scratch bowlers, a little bit of handicap bowlers, and the idea is to get enough people to come out and participate and patronize the event, and hopefully it will just keep growing, and it'll lead to other bigger and better things down the road. But hopefully our first tournament will go very well, hopefully.
I think it will. I mean, we have already had entries coming in. Of course, the tournament is not till November 19th and 20th, the 19th being a 5-game sweeper, the 20th being the main event. Most recently, we had the military champion from Yuma, James Bloomer. He recently got into the event. And, of course, as we've announced before, Butch Soper will be coming up, unretiring from Lake Havasu, trying to reclaim some of that old bowling glory, Eric. You know how that goes at times, so it should be fun to see him participating in this event.
Love it when the old guys decide to bowl.
But probably most importantly, because she's here with us, we will have the beautiful Paula Vidad doing our lane side interviews. And Paula, I do want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for being involved with the show, and I think it's going to be great to have you lane side.
Yes, I love doing shows. I've done some live streaming with at USBC on a couple of the senior shows, and so I think I'm pretty comfortable getting to be able to ask people questions, and it'll be interesting too because I have a feeling that the show might be all handicap bowlers, which would be pretty cool because it shows that they have a chance against the scratch bowlers. And speaking of shows and handicap bowlers, is on Tom's TBS Nostalgia channel. He has the 1981 Miller doubles, and Don Carter was one of the commentators, and there were two teams that had women on them, and so they were just like making that point that, normally you see men and they're very high bowlers, but he said that there were two teams that were women and it was handicapped. So I think this is going to be very interesting to see who's going to make the show.
I agree wholeheartedly, and that's the point that I've always tried to make with tournaments. I think that handicap gets blown out of proportion, and realistically, in my opinion at least, the par in bowling these days based on maybe not necessarily the hardest of PBA patterns, U.S. Open patterns, but on like a USBC white pattern, I believe 210 is the new par in bowling. It's not 200 anymore. Making it 100% at 210, I think that really equalizes the playing field. Low enough handicap where a scratch bowler isn't, or at least shouldn't be scared to come out, and high enough where a handicap bowler is going to get a little bit of bonus pins out there. We, of course, will be bowling on the USBC white 1 pattern, which is a tremendous pattern, as all three of us have bowled on it, I'm sure. And I think it's going to be a very fair tournament. I think it's going to be a very well received. And truth be told, guys, I'm really looking forward to having the opportunity to do something like this for bowling. It's been too long, and Eric, you and I have been doing this now for, 4.5 years doing Bowling Evolved, and I feel like every step of the way we're able to do just a little bit more to give back, including, of course, donating a portion of the proceeds to the We Care Cancer Foundation in the name of our late great friend Barry Gurney. And I have to think that if Barry was here right now, he'd be very pleased with what we're trying to do.
Oh, I agree. I'm sure he would have been there for sure. Barry didn't miss too many events. He always enjoyed coming to Laughlin, him and Joan, and it'll be cool to have his name, so to speak, involved with this. And again, this tournament has a lot of good intentions, and we're all gung-ho about it, and there's a lot of good people trying to make it happen, and we're going to try to build it, and hopefully when we build it, they'll come.
Yes, that is definitely the hope. And with that being said, we'll move on to some of the other stories that were featured in Bowling Illustrated this month, or I believe it actually is a quarterly magazine. I guess I should clarify that. Hopefully if it does catch on, we can continue to do stories and see it more often. But another wonderful story was, of course, about the wonderful Paula Vidad. John Rocco had wrote a very interesting and very nice story about your transition in bowling, getting in the business side of things, and how you've managed to succeed, and, of course, all your success on the lanes. And Paula, reflecting back when you see that article, what kind of feelings come to mind knowing where you were and where you are now?
Oh, it brings back all kinds of different feelings, only because now I feel like I want to give back to the sport, something that was given to me at a young age. And I still, I had a little section there where I didn't bowl as much, and then to be able to compete on the women's senior tournaments is just incredible, because if I look back at all the people that bowled back then, where are they now? There's not a lot of women that have continued to bowl, and some have issues, and of course as we age, the moving parts get a little bit more difficult to move. But I feel like I've gone full circle. Had the opportunities as a junior, college, and then professional bowler, got into the business and saw the other side of it, and then now to go back on the other side again, to be able to give back all the things that were given to me. I feel that we were very fortunate at the time in the 80s and early 90s that the kids and the college kids that don't have the opportunities now, but they are getting, and hopefully it'll last. So as we drive forward with all of this new television and everything, that I think it'll push it to a new level, maybe even a level that we never got to see. So I think you have to have all the right people in the right places, and that's what's happening. So, like Eric having the experience, I had the experience, and of course yourself, and then you see a different view of how things were run and how things should be run, and the future of it, that the future is bright with the things that we're confining to doing. So I think it's a lot of mixed emotions for me, because I love it, just like I love helping people with their game or the kids and helping them enjoy the game so it'll make them lifetime bowlers like I've enjoyed it. I came from a whole bowling, our whole family bowled. We had, it's 3 kids and my mom and dad, and I was the family scorekeeper at age 10 with the old pencils and the hot telescores and the smoke blowing in your face. And the good old days, you put the little,
I remember
have a 111. Yeah, the 111, you put the little house thingy on the top, or somebody would say, give me a fence because I'm not bowling very well. So the experiences that we're able to now bring other people, the kids, and have them grow up, and it's just very exciting. I think bowling has a bright future, and we're the ones that are going to be making a big difference, and I think that's just, it's fantastic.
I couldn't agree more, and I love hearing the excitement in your voice. I know when you mentioned working with kids and things of that nature, I know Eric and I have shared several stories before on the show just talking about what we have done to try to give back. And, obviously I have not been as successful on the big scale, as big a scale as you or Eric, of course, but, having the opportunity to at least bowl on the regional tour, to do what I've done in the sport as a journalist, and to me, the most rewarding thing in the world is having someone that is getting started in bowling and you're able to help them find the love for the sport. It's just, unless you have done it personally, you can't explain that feeling. And Paula, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about with that.
Absolutely. It warms your heart. It's almost like being a proud parent.
Exactly. And, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that as well, that we are at this precipice of doing something really incredible with the sport. But unfortunately, it's not always incredible, as we will talk about the next story that comes up in Bowling Illustrated that I unfortunately had to write in for my beleaguered broadcast partner, the one and only Eric Forkel, and his plight in bowling. In a nutshell, we had talked a little bit about how, Eric, you've been locked out of several tournaments, of course, including the West Coast Senior Tour and now the South Point Shootout Senior Tournament in Vegas, which on all intents and purposes looks like a tremendous event, but still puts rules in effect that limit the people that could actually compete. And Eric, now that has been seen by 25,000 people and it continues to be ran in different newspapers and magazines, people understand where you're coming from. What kind of feelings do you get knowing that these same people that have locked you out now have to, quote unquote, eat the crow, so to speak, as your story is now being told?
Well, I haven't received any death threats, so that's a good start. Hey, I'm just going to speak my mind like a lot of people do. It's how I felt, and it's how I still feel. I still think it's ridiculous when they do the things that they do to stop better players from bowling because the other players don't think it's fair that they have to compete against them, and it totally blows away the whole idea of competition in sports. It's always, you always want to bowl against better players. That's what makes you a better bowler. The goal is to try to beat them, and if you do, then you feel like you've accomplished something. I know I've told you this story 10 million times, and that was my dream from wanting to go out and bowl on the Pro Tour because I wanted to bowl against the best, and I every now and then I have the opportunity to get on TV and then happen to win some things, and then you beat the best. But to not have that chance in a local situation, especially as you get older, because of what you've done 20 years ago, it's just despicable, in my opinion. And then with something like the West Coast Seniors, which should be actually the West Coast Super Seniors now, with Dick Sanders raising it to 60 and eliminating people from 50 to 60, basically telling them you're not old enough to bowl. Ridiculous, because once again, you're trying to grow the sport from the top instead of where you should be growing it from the bottom. You can't cater to people who are 60, 65, and 70. You should be catering to people who are 50 to try to grow the organization. But of course, they didn't want to see it that way because people didn't want to bowl against some of the better bowlers. And it happens like that in a lot of things. It's not just me. It affects a lot of people. And every time that does come up, it's very annoying. And it's just, for a sport that's kind of shrinking when it comes to scratch bowling, why would you even make it shrink more by eliminating people? You're helping it to get smaller, whereas you should be going the opposite way. You should be trying to grow it. You should invite everybody, try to get more people to show up. And for those who don't think that they can compete, well, okay. But then they'll have 5 or 6 more people who can. So, you can only make, someone's going to bowl well and someone's not. It's difficult sometimes to equalize talent, but everybody has a chance, There's been many times where I've gone, or I'm sure Paula's gone, and she haven't bowled as well as we would have liked, and other people have beaten us, and oh well, that's just a game. Just because you're a really good player doesn't mean you bowl well every time. It just means you have a better chance, but there's no guarantee. So to eliminate you from these events because of what you say you've done in the past or because of this and that, it's just ridiculous. Again, you shouldn't stop anyone from bowling in a game, in a sport that is dying to have people show up. It's entries are low across the board in almost every event. So why would you make it even more difficult for people to compete? I'm sorry, it should be just the opposite. You should find ways to get people to come bowl because you need bodies to have an event. If you don't get people to show up, you don't have an event. Well, he says, well, if the better players don't show up, then I'll get more bowlers to come bowl. Well, maybe, but then again, maybe not. I mean, it's just a terrible way to compete. It's just so against competition in my brain and maybe a lot of others. It just doesn't make sense. Just because something that you've done really well, say 20 years ago, doesn't mean you're as good even now. I mean, you change as you get older. Like Paul, the body doesn't quite respond the way it used to. There are a lot of guys who were very skillful many years ago, and they're not as skillful now. They can be beat. So, that's why that whole story, once again, was a little aggravating to tell it again, but I guess it needs to be told. And you did a fine job, I'll have to say. The story was well written, and you did a great job. And if certain people don't like it, like Ron or even Dick Sanders, I really don't care. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay because it's the truth. Some people don't like the truth. But everybody has their own opinion, so I'm sure they would have their opinion on it. So it is what it is. It makes the world go around.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and obviously, Eric, I agree with your description of the event and how your viewpoint is on it. obviously growing up, my goal was always to beat the best, and I had an opportunity to bowl with some of the best, and yeah, I did not win all the tournaments I ever bowled, and I got beat by a lot of you guys on a lot of occasions, but on the rare occasion I was able to step up, and those are the memories that stay with me forever. You know, I always joke, you know, obviously, Eric, when we bowled here in the doubles tournament, I joke about that all the time, that one of my favorite memories was shooting 790 with you with a 299 game and out shooting my PBA champion partner by 130 pins. You know, it's a fluke thing, obviously, for me to be able to do that, but that's something that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. And if they didn't allow a PBA player to bowl, I would never have that story. And I don't know. That's the point that I think really bothers me more than anything, because as you very well said, you're taking these stories away from the bowlers. It's not right.
And stories and memories, that's what bowling is all about. Like I said, the money comes, the money goes, but it's the memories, it's the stories, it's the good times, it's the people you meet through the years, it's the places you go. That's what creates the whole good feeling about competing, especially in bowling. I mean, all these people back in the day would come out and bowl at tour stop, the local favorite, the local bowlers. If they happen to bowl the tournament and they bowl well and they make the top 24, and man, if they happen to make that TV show, now the whole town and the whole bowling center is basically cheering for them, and they're competing against some of the best bowlers on the planet. And if they happen to beat them, what a great story. It's a memory that they'll always have. I beat so-and-so. And like I said, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about, you know, some of these other people, but this whole thing just happened to pertain to me. And it's just, you're robbing people of a chance to basically beat better bowlers. And just to appease bowlers who maybe don't think that they're good enough, but if that guy's not there, now I'll come bowl. I just think that's just such the wrong way to look at it. I get it in some way, but the other part of me says this is ridiculous. And unfortunately, it seems to win out more than it should. And hey, you know what? I hope, and like I told you before, the irony of that whole thing with Ron Moore is that he asked me if I would help him with the lane conditions. He wanted me. He said, even though you're not going to bowl, I would really appreciate it if you come down there and help me put up a shot to see how the left side's going to play in the plaza. And I looked at him like, are you crazy? I mean, are you serious? But that's how some of these, I mean, really? So, and I just laughed at him. I said, yeah, okay, I'll talk to you later. And I walked away. I'm like, are you serious? Well, you know, if maybe next year, then all you guys can bowl. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really nice. I'll help you, but then maybe next year you'll throw the bone to allow the other guys to come bowl. That's just ridiculous. Just simply ridiculous. And again, I hope they do well. I hope things get better, but you know, it's just not the way, in my opinion, to build a program that way. It just doesn't. I just don't. It's hard for me to be in agreement of it. It's just not the way. Come bowl.
Doing something similar for nationals. I just read the women's championships, and now our team we're going to have to break up our team because it says if you've ever won a national championship. And Dana Miller-Mackey is on my team, and she won like 20 years ago.
Exactly.
So now we have to break up our team, which she hasn't won in 20 years, because
ridiculous.
they have this new rule that if you won a national championship.
Ridiculous.
So, now, if
ridiculous.
You know, somebody else on the team wins a national championship, now we can't vote together again. So now you have to keep
ridiculous.
Yeah, they think that by doing this, they're going to get more entries. Actually, they're going to lose entries because they're going to lose all these bowlers. They're going to lose us. We're not going to be able to bowl this year.
Exactly. So
it's cheapening the sport is what it's doing, and
that's
the thing that upsets me more than anything, because it's not just in the national levels. I mean, when we had Jeff Riggles on, you know, when they were talking about the Open Championships and the rules about having PBA members, I mean, there was enough rage there, but it's not just on the national level. And I think you look at even local tournaments. I think I told the story on air about the city tournament locally where they had put, because one person in the entire association averaged over 230, they decided to make the handicap 100% of like 240, which, and basically more or less told the better bowlers, hey, we know you put 2 or 3 teams in, we like seeing you guys in A and B division, but you know what, we don't want you to bowl this year, thinking that they're going to get more bowlers, and it just shrinks it over time, because now the next year when they change the rules, yeah, they're like, hey, you want to come out and bowl? And I'm thinking to myself, no, you already disqualified me one year. Now you're going to come back and beg me to bowl again? That makes no sense. Why would you do that?
No, and like I said, these are just instances, you know. It's all across the board. So it's just, I don't know. It's like a sickness. It's like it's been. I don't remember it back in the day. I don't remember these kinds of things. It might have been around, but I just don't remember it. And it just seems to be more predominant these days because they're trying to revive or save things by saying, well, hey, the good bowlers won't be there. It gives you more of a chance. Show up. It's just, to me, it's the wrong way to market it. It just goes everything against, it's the same thing as being a sandbagger, basically. If you're, you know, when people try to sandbag and get this and that to them, and then it just rubs me the wrong way. It's just so wrong. And I don't know, but obviously it's happening all over the place, so it seems to be a bit of a trend right now. I don't know. It's very disheartening, and if it, you know, the demise of bowling, they always talk about, at least for competitive bowling, open play bowling and stuff like that seems to be doing fine, but competitive bowling seems to be diminishing, and there's no way that stuff like this can be helping to promote competitive bowling. To me, it just diminishes it or tarnishes it or makes it less of what it should be.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, it seems like that things do not tend to get better other than with isolated organizations such as ourselves and what we're trying to do. I mean, going into even talking about USBC, Paul, I just start banging my head against the wall. I just had a conversation the other day with USBC doing all these things for the national tournaments, but a lot of the local associations are being put out to the wolves, and they're being forced to raise their rates for cards and local membership, which is diminishing bowling. And I don't understand, as Eric, as you said, how can you build things from the top down and not the bottom up? It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Right.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And
also on level 2, the women, we used to have a separate scratch division, and now it's just all handicap. Our city association is doing the same thing. It's like, oh, well, we're never going to win again because to have to compete against that. I mean, the handicap is crazy. So what's funny is that it was always on the men's side for California State Tournament. The men's division was always handicapped, just one big division, and the women's were 3 or 4 separate divisions, and you both scratch. And I always thought that was the way that all, you know, everything, whether it's national, state, city, should all be run. And now it's all one division, and it's all handicapped. And I go, oh, brother. It's
well,
yeah.
Like I said, it's you know, we obviously all feel the same way, and it's not gonna. It seems to be the trend, and all we can do is keep trying to push our end of it and do our events, and try to push obviously TBS and try to get things as good as we can. And you know, that's all we can control because we can't control all the other things, but. Again, if somebody asks me, or if they ask to do a story like you did, and I'm going to tell you what I think. I mean, some people will like it, and some people won't. It is what it is. We all have opinions, and you know that's just how I feel, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Just remember to quote a certain political saying that's going on right now. We're here to make bowling great again, and maybe we're the deplorables of the bowling world.
Oh, trust me, there's plenty of deplorables out there, but I don't think it's us. I've got a few that I think are really deplorable, and yeah, we could try to make bowling great again. Sure, absolutely.
Eric, maybe you and I are deplorables. Paula's too sweet to be a deplorable, so you know we'll let her slide on this one.
We'll have to come up with a new shirt via "We Are Deplorable and Proud of It."
So we're going to make bowling great again, on the front and the back. We're deplorable. We're going to make bowling great again on the back.
That's right. Sounds like
hey,
a plan.
We were the bad boys of bowling broadcasting there for a little bit. But with that being said, we're going to go to our second break here. Stick around. We'll have a wrap up right after this commercial break. Stick around. This week's edition of Bowling Evolved is brought to you by BowlingIllustrated.com and TVSRadioNetwork.com. TVS Network, for over 50 years, bring you the best in sports broadcasting. Welcome back, fans. Well, from the deplorables of the bowling world, I'm actually liking that. We are now the bad boys and bad girl of bowling broadcasting. That's going to be our new catchphrase.
Okay.
You don't think that's going to fly?
Hey, I'm ready. I can be a deplorable. Let's do it. I've been called worse, so what the hell? It's okay. It's okay.
Paula will protect us, right, Paula?
Right. Yeah, the silent one.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me first off say thank you once again for joining us on another tremendous edition of Bowling Evolved, being brought to you by BowlingIllustrated.com and TVSRadioNetwork.com. Of course, the TVS Sports Broadcasting for over 50 years bring you the very best in sports. I'm very proud to be doing this broadcast not only on our channel, but now with their show as well. I also want to thank our sponsors, Mongoose Bowling Products, and, of course, RealBowlersTape.com. Steve Adams doing some tremendous things out there for the bowling world. I am so thrilled to be part of him, and all three of us have had a chance to work with him now, and can't say enough good things about Steve. Also want to give a shout-out to EliteProShopAZ.com for allowing me to record in this wonderful pro shop here, EliteProShopAZ.com. And, of course, our new title sponsor on the Bowling Evolved 2x4 on November 19th and 20th, Motive Bowling. Of course, you can visit them at motivebowling.com. Oh, and Eric, I'll let you plug our last sponsor because I think you love that place.
I love the Riverside Lanes. I love it. I love that place.
Check them out at bowlaughlin.com. Oh, jeez. But with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I'd like to thank our guest tonight, the beautiful and wonderful Paula Vidad. Paula, thank you so much for stopping in.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, and the $100 is in the mail. Thank you for saying that.
Wow. That's not right. He gets $100. I can't even get 25 cents. That's just wrong.
Aw.
That's okay. That's all right. My puppies love me, so that's all that matters. That's okay.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, and I will also give a quick plug. Check out our website, bowlingevolved.com. That goes straight to our Facebook page. Over 1,500 fans. Eric, I don't know what we did, but man, we must have done something right.
I think you paid a lot of people. That's what I think.
I wish I had that
He was using the money I was paying him to give to the
I think you paid. I think you sent everybody a quarter, and you told them that's why they're getting involved, because you gave them each a quarter.
What I did was I made 1,500 profiles on Facebook, and I just kept liking the page over and over again.
Probably.
But, of course, check out bowlingevolved.com. Check out our event page. They'll have all the information, of course, on the Bowling Evolved 2x4. And, of course, if you go to – I'm sorry, do you still have the WBA website available still?
No, not. I have to get it back, actually.
Okay. Well, look for Paula's WBA tournament coming up in March. We will also be sharing that information, of course, on the Bowling Evolved Facebook page. And if you look really carefully, you might even find a special birthday video made for our favorite bowling announcer and broadcaster, Eric Forkel.
Yeah, I got to say, before we go, that was, I don't know if that was, it felt like a memoriam. I think I'm really dead after watching that. It was so touching. I don't think I deserve to be here right now. I think I'm gone, and that thank you for the memoriam. It's very nice.
Yeah, well, 56, that's pretty much dead, isn't it?
I think so. I think I'm done. I'm keep 4 more years, and I can bowl the super seniors of the West Coast. By that, I'll be 60 at that point. then they'll probably raise it to 65. But that's.
I was
okay.
going to say then they'll change it again.
Yeah, of course. But that's.
Well,
yeah, I enjoyed the video. I have to say it was very touching. It was very touching.
Yes,
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I figured nobody does it better than Eric Forkel, and hell, like I said, it was your birthday. I mean, you might as well go out on a bang, right? I mean, come on, people got to remember the good times.
Like I said, they're already got the. Yeah. I mean, it was the greatest memoriam I've ever had. It was awesome.
Well, on that little tidbit of sarcasm, let's close it out. For our guest, Paula Vidad, and of course, my illustrious broadcast partner, Eric Forkel, I've been Dustin J. Markowitz. Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.